Coming up on Pet Heroes. A woman depends on her 2 dogs to save her after a grisly encounter with a bear. And a house cat comes to the rescue when her owner finds herself face to face with a deadly predator. Hi, I'm Jason McCoy, and welcome to Pet Heroes. Why do animals put themselves in harm's way when danger threatens the lives of their human companions? We're going to explore the stories of Alina Hansen and Kimberly Kotar, 2 women whose amazing pets came to the rescue when they were needed most. Alina Hansen lives on a ranch in a remote volcanic basin at the base of the Southern Sierra Mountains.
I live in what I like to call Eden. There may be 500 households in a 500 square mile area. It's very remote. There's nothing here. The closest gallon of milk is 67 miles away. I love the idea of being as self-sufficient as I can be. It was a wonderful place to raise my child. And that's really, I think, why I came here.
Alina's constant companions are dogs Archie, an Irish wolfhound, and Decoy, an English Mastiff.
My dogs are working dogs in as much as they're my security system up here. They're completely non-aggressive or I wouldn't have them here. But they're intimidating looking. And, you know, when mountain lions or bears or whatever come anywhere near here, they let me know. RK is named after Archimedes, and he's a mathematician. He doesn't know he's huge. You know, he just thinks he's a little puppy. He's the most enthusiastic character I've ever met. The Mastiff, on the other hand, he personifies sloth. If he doesn't have to move, he doesn't. He was a rescue dog, apparently bred for dog fighting and being a watchdog for a drug operation in Bakersfield. And they kept this poor thing chained by its neck to a tree stump in 115-degree heat with no shade. All you have to do is look at him and you go, that's a scary looking dog. But he's very gentle and he's totally devoted to me. They're very good friends. There are different facets of my own personality, but together they make one really interesting personality.
The arrival of summer 2008 in the Sierras brings with it dramatic, often destructive weather.
We'd had a huge wildfire. It was about a month-long fire.
Kurt Merrill has been captain of the Kern County Fire Department for the last 10 years.
And all these animals got dispersed. The weeks and months after that fire, we had an increase of sighting of bears and deer and all kinds of other wild animals.
But fire isn't the only threat facing residents and wildlife in the mountains this year.
We had torrential rains in July that washed out trees and boulders and completely changed the terrain. They had silted in my spring, which supplied the water for my orchards. And I had to dig it out by hand. As you can see, the spring box is full of silt and dirt from the rains. This has to be dug out maybe 5 or 6 feet to get down to the water, which is spilling out the side here. This water goes down and waters the orchards and my gardens, so it's kind of necessary that I do this.
July 22nd begins as an ordinary day on Alina's ranch.
First thing in the morning, as the sunlight's coming up, I'm out doing my chores.
But ordinary is not remotely how this day will end.
It's like Pearl Harbor or 9/11. I won't forget that day. If you've ever bathed in a mountain spring, you know it gets cold. So after about 2 hours of reaching down and pulling out rocks, I thought it was time to get out and get warm, get the feeling back in my legs. So I climbed out, and it's this perfect day. You know, the filtered sunlight's coming through pine trees, and little birds are singing, and it smells like summer camp. It's just magical. And I'm lost in the moment here. My dogs are sleeping down the creek just around a bend where they usually are. So I step out of the spring box, heading over this way to warm up, walk over to this old stump, and right there, there is the bear, right by that tree stump, and it's staring right into my eyes. There's a bear. A bear. A bear. You know, I've always seen it as a gift when I see a bear. It's very special. I'd be riding my horse in the back country or occasionally glimpse one when I'm out hiking with the dogs. And it's part of the magic of living here.
On this occasion, the bear isn't special, it's terrifying.
It was staring hard into my eyes, and I knew exactly what was coming. I had maybe a half a second of eye contact with the thing, and I just went, oh no.
After the break, it's up to Archie and Decoy after a deadly encounter with a bear leaves Elena fighting for her life. While working near her property, rancher Elena Hansen suddenly finds herself face to face with a bear.
And the next thing I knew, bam, it was in my face. Leaps, grabs me by the ears, bites into my face, and knocks me down into the mud. The next thing I know, I'm lying there with my face in the water, and this bear is chewing on my head. It was savaging me. I could hear its breath, and it was grunting. And I went, wow. So this is what it feels like to be eaten by a bear. And I could feel it, every bite it went through. You know, I felt my bones crunching. I felt it bite through my eye. I felt my skin being ripped off. And at that point, I opened up my eyes and I looked at this thing that was eating me, and its eye was right here next to my eye, as close as a kiss. And I went, no. And I took my thumb, which I realized was free. I was kind of like this. And I went, eh. And then I jabbed it again. And the thing let go of my face long enough for me to yell for my dogs. Because I knew he'd come. I knew the mastiff would follow the wolfhound.
Wendy McClellan, a doctor of veterinary medicine, offers her unique perspective on animal behavior.
Dogs can detect when someone is in danger very quickly. I speculate in this case it was the strain in Elena's voice that caused Archie and Decoy to come running to her aid. Because they are so bonded, they immediately picked up on the change in her behavior and responded immediately. One is an Irish wolfhound, and the other's a mastiff. They're bred to be soldiers and hunters. It's those traits that allow them to react when Elena faces danger.
I don't remember what happened next, but I was lying there and I heard the dog screaming in pain. And I looked over, and the bear had my mastiff down on his back and was chewing on his belly. And I thought, you know, my dog is willing to die to try to save my life. The least I can do is get up and try to get out of here, you know, and honor that sacrifice. I'm sure the wolfhound was nearby. The wolfhound was staying with me because I had to stumble down maybe 200 yards of creek bed and I couldn't see, so I was just following the irrigation pipe. I was blind, I didn't have any shoes on, and I stumbled into the ravine, which is the worst thing that could have happened to me. I thought, you know, I've escaped a bear and I'm gonna get nailed by a rattlesnake? This is so not fair. And so I just screamed to the heavens. Ah! And apparently, it was one of those primal screams that they tell you about. The wolfhound heard that too.
Archie hears Elena's scream and comes running to her aid.
And here's this 200-pound puppy galumphing up through the brush and the brambles, clearing a pathway through it for me to get out. And I put my hand on his head, and he guided me down the mountain. He saved me.
Archie leads Elena to the remote road where her car is parked, but he has unfinished business with her attacker.
And I realized the wolfhound was gone, and I could hear him screaming. I thought, oh God, it's got my wolfhound too.
Archie!
I was pretty sure both of my dogs were dead.
Archie rejoins the fight, allowing Decoy to rush to Elena's side.
Decoy? Oh, come on. That boy.
Imagine this. I'm up on a mountain on this suggestion of a road. I'm in my car, and I just gunned it. And I thought, gravity is your friend. You'll get to the bottom one way or another. I really do not have a clue how I made it.
RK and Decoy were successful in fighting off the bear by implementing a tag team approach. This approach is common in dogs in the wild when they are either attacking a predator or defending themselves. One will attack while the other distracts. It's very effective.
Incredibly, Elena manages to drive to the nearby Kern County Fire Department.
It's just amazing that she just drove herself from that location down here to the fire station, which is about 3 miles, with half her face ripped off. That's amazing.
EMT Evan Davidson witnesses her arrival.
First thing I thought was, oh my God, this lady has a lot of damage to her face and we need to get her help right now.
Davidson helps the stricken woman. He is soon joined by Chief Kurt Merrill.
I asked her name, and she said Alana Hansen. And at that point, I was thrown back because I knew Alana Hansen. I didn't recognize her at all. She told me that she's by herself with her 2 dogs, that she got attacked by a bear, and her 2 dogs intervened, and she had thought that one of her dogs was killed during the attack.
I knew the Mastiff was alive, but I didn't know how badly he'd been injured, and I knew that the Wolfhound was dead. We heard this chop, 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 chop of the air evac coming out from Mojave. And they loaded me onto the helicopter and airlifted me down to UCLA.
At the hospital, doctors work nearly 10 hours and use over 1,000 stitches to rebuild Elena's face.
And I saw her a few weeks after the attack, and it was pretty amazing the way she looked. And she looked extremely well for what she went through. The dogs, I believe, they did to save her life. They took all the attention away from her. They attacked the bear and allowed her to escape.
I believe that if the dogs weren't there, that maybe days, weeks later, she would have been found.
As much as I'd like to feel vengeful, I don't, because it's a bear.
The Irish Wolfhound and the Mastiff make a great team. The Wolfhound brings in the swiftness and the reliability, and the Mastiff brings in the courage and the power.
Not long after receiving emergency reconstructive surgery, Elena returns home where Decoy is waiting for her. And so is someone else.
And here come these 2 big dogs just bounding up to the car, and I just burst into tears. And the dogs were happy to see me. It's like nothing had ever happened.
Miraculously, Elena's dogs have sustained only minor injuries.
They go, oh, you okay? Everything okay? Here, let me nudge you. You know, licks and leaning against me and little whimpers. I went, yeah, I'm okay, it's all right. And they're like, oh, all right, I'm all right. Everybody had a big group hug. They're my dogs, they're my family. You know, they're my friends. They're heroes, but I don't want it to go to their head.
Next, when a Quebec woman comes face to face with one of the world's deadliest snakes, it's up to her cat to save her. We just saw how 2 dogs put themselves in harm's way when their owner becomes the victim of a bear attack. Now we look at the story of Sosa, a simple house cat who comes to the rescue when her owner comes face to face with one of the world's most deadly snakes. Kimberly Kotar is a research coordinator at McGill University. She divides her free time between running marathons and volunteering at the local SPCA. Kimberly has 4 cats, but Sosa is special.
One day my mom was house cleaning and this cat walked into my mother's home and just kind of plopped down, and it had this big bump on its belly, so we were concerned about the cat. So we brought it to the veterinarian, and the next morning my mom called to see how the cat was doing, and they said, oh, the cat's doing wonderfully, and she gave birth to 3 kittens last night, and one of those kittens is Sosa. On July 27th, it was kind of a regular summer day in Montreal. Sosa, she'll sit beside me when I'm doing my work, so she takes advantage of moments. I was doing some gardening, just weeding, pulling out plants and taking care of stuff. So I was in and out of the garden basically most of the afternoon from 1 o'clock onwards. I'd come inside to wash my hands, and I was going outside to bring the garbage and stuff to the curb when I heard the hissing sound.
And I thought it was the tire, so I'm looking. I don't see anything wrong with the tire. And then I looked down, about 5 inches from my foot was a snake with its head up, mouth open, getting ready to attack.
I was afraid to make any kind of move. And then Sosa came out of nowhere and hit it. Heard her scream, and then I ran across the neighbors because I didn't know what else to do.
It's Sosa's hunting instincts that trigger her into action. The snake's rapid movements elicit this response, but it's her bond with Kimberly that initially kept her close by.
The size and exotic coloration of the snake are unlike anything Kimberly has seen before.
I went to the neighbors. I told them that I needed some help. I was afraid to go back over to the house. I didn't know where the snake was. My neighbor got a huge pole out of his garage. I went back to where the incident happened, and then I saw blood, so I knew Sosa got bitten.
We eventually found it here. Like, he had a long stick so he could stand back. It was about 6 feet, and he was just holding it from here on the snake's neck. And the snake kept turning around to try and attack the pole that he had on the snake.
I couldn't find Sosa. Couldn't find her anywhere. I had lost the blood trail in the grass, so it took me a better part of 35 minutes to find her. Finally found her under the deck. Found her crying under the deck, and her paw was hugely swollen. So I managed to get under the deck and drag her out. She didn't even want to come out, and then I rushed her to the 24-hour vet that isn't too far from here, luckily, and went to see the vet, and then we had to wait for the identification for the snake. So her treatment was delayed because we couldn't start anything without knowing what kind of snake.
Eventually, the SPCA is able to identify the snake as an eastern cottonmouth, one of the deadliest snakes in the world and not commonly found in Quebec.
And at that time, the veterinarian told me that her chances were not good because they did not have an anti-venom. He said her chances were slim, asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, I want you to try to do everything you can to save my cat. So they put her on IV, started on IV right away. They put her on a heart monitor because the venom causes seizures and heart attacks in animals and in humans because it prevents the blood from clotting. So basically, when I left there that night, he told me it was hour to hour. Call back in the morning and see what was going on.
Sosa makes it through the night, but shows no signs of improvement.
So the vertebrae run all the way through.
Dave Bethel has worked with reptiles all his life.
So the venom of an eastern cottonmouth certainly has enough venom to kill up to 150, 170 pound animal. When it bites a cat, for it to survive more than 5 or 10 minutes, the likelihood it was that it didn't give a full dose of venom. Quite often when a snake strikes in a defensive mode, it first gives what we call a dry bite, no venom or very little venom injected. A small amount of venom injected into a cat doesn't take the nervous system, it takes the blood system, so it would affect the heart or the liver, the kidney, basically causing necrosis in those organs. Breaks down a lot of the blood vessels, so you get an internal hemorrhaging.
I felt so helpless that I said, I have to do something. So I started looking for places where the snake is indigenous. And I figured if I find someone that's teaching in a veterinarian school, chances are they've seen a wound like this.
After 3 tense days, Kimberly finally finds a veterinarian in Virginia who's familiar with these type of snake bites.
And I explained to her the story and that I needed to save my cat. And she said, well, have your vet call me, have them page me out of surgery, and I'll see what I can do for you. So based on the information that she gave them, they started adding some sort of fluid with special proteins in Sosa's IV. And they started that day, and then They were also told to massage the wound, which is what they weren't doing previously.
With a small amount of venom, by massaging it, rubbing it, increasing the circulation and the blood flow, you're going to disperse that through the body, allow the animal to get rid of it.
The next morning, the vet called me and said, "We think you could probably bring Sosa home today at 4 o'clock." And I was like, what? And I guess some part of me believed that miracles can happen. And I mean, I brought her home 4 days later. Obviously, miracles can happen.
Cats generally don't have the same social needs as dogs, but that doesn't mean they can't form deep attachments with their owners. With Kimberly and Sosa, that was certainly the case.
So this is Sosa's medal that she received from the Quebec Veterinarian Association. She was admitted into the Hall of Fame. Sosa's the only cat to ever be inducted in the hero category. Every year it's gone to a dog. She's the only cat to ever receive this honor. And this is just a picture of us together on the day that she received her award. Sosa was inducted into the Purina Hall of Fame for Heroes. So that's her medal from Purina. She's a completely different cat since the snake attack. She's purely sweet, and she wasn't really sweet before this happened. She was kind of vinegary, that, if I can say that. I really think she was protecting me. I think she knew I was in danger. I really do. Sosa's a hero. Yeah, she definitely is. She's a hero. She's my hero.
In the case of Archie and Decoy, we have two dogs that were bred for their ability to guard and protect, while Sosa the cat responds to threats on instinct. And in both cases, Alina Hansen and Kimberly Kotar owe their lives to the bond they formed with their pets. A bond that keeps their pets close by.